Hey, welcome inside to another episode of The Chair. I know I stole that from the grinds, but let's do a baseball preview show of 2020. It's a 60-game season. It's delayed. I know we're delayed. We're all delayed. We're all at home. It doesn't matter. Here with me tonight, I have Todd Mesky, one half of the Grinds podcast and his show. I suggest everybody go check that out. I know we're on the chair right now, but this is kind of a crossover, and this is something I've always wanted to do with anyone, you know. So, Todd, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, my friend James. I'm glad to be on the chair. I enjoy your show, checking it out and everything, and coming to you live from the studios or live as we do it. And then we're talking baseball, aren't we?
Yeah, we are going to talk that baseball. And, fortunately, it is here. When there was tremendous doubt that there was not going to be any baseball at all, I was going around thinking like, okay, we're just going to have not have baseball for maybe 2 years, depending how things are going to go with the whole unions and all that. So, fortunately, we're here. We are late, but we are here nevertheless. And just would love to do like a preview, and then let's run through the divisions, and then who do you think will make the playoff picture, as the bracket is just going to be odd this year, and I would love to break that down too. And then who's going to make the World Series, who's going to be the winner with the asterisk on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the questions is when are the Astros going to get their chance to get beamed, and are we all going to see it? I would love to see that happen. I know there's so many people out there that would love to see it. Of course, they can't brawl, and I always thought about that. I was like, wait, they can't really fight because they can't really touch each other. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm pretty sure once we get to Houston and the AL West, we'll get into that for sure. So there was games. What was it on the July 23rd. There were 2 games, and I wasn't able to watch either. Or, well, the late one. But I noticed the Yankees did win in a rain-soaked D.C. stadium, I think 4-1 to start off things. And I read it was the most watched regular season MLB game. Is that right?
Yeah, basically the stats from the first or from the last 3 seasons of opening day games, this beat it by 200%. So it tripled the audience. And usually opening days get a big audience regardless. So I think it, one, shows you how much people have died and missed to see sports live. And then 2, the fact that I think the fans will come back because the ones that aren't usually at the games are at home now too watching. So they're bringing fans. And like today, with our opening day for the Angels, me and my family sat around the TV and watched us blow another game. But the fact that we sat around as a family, all watched, we hardly do that as a family. So, it's a tradition, opening day and everything. So I think that was good. I mean, a lot more people that I know are online watching the game too. It's just, I think with the pandemic and being in quarantine so long, this was a nice distraction.
Yeah, that's for sure. The later game, July 23rd, yesterday, was the Dodgers and the Giants. That ended up being the way it has been going the last couple of years. It was, 7-1 LA?
8-1.
8-1 LA, just to add injury to insult, how San Francisco's going to be this season.
And can I say something on San Francisco real quick?
Of course.
So I bought the MLB 2020, the show, right? And so I started playing the video game pre this whole thing when it first came out. And I remember, I picked 2 teams to play with, and one national, one American. And the national team, I opened up against the Giants, and I was just amazed. I'm like, this is the real roster, and I had to double check the roster to make sure it was a real roster, and it was. And I'm like, dude, all I know is Sandoval, Longoria, and Posey. I go, the rest of the team, who the hell are these guys? Like, it's a bunch of AAA guys. And I was like, dude, they're gonna suck. And well. Looks like it.
Hunter Pence did make 1 year comeback this season
Oh, he's on
as
the
the
squad?
DH. Yeah, he last year, if you recall, which I totally forgot, he was the DH with the Texas Rangers,
That's
and
right.
he was their lone All-Star.
Oh, jeez.
So he goes back to San Francisco, and long behold, pitchers don't hit. He's the DH in San. That's going to be interesting throughout the whole season. You know how it's a universal DH.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're playing that video game, it's going to be just like that. There's going to be more runs, higher ERAs. It's just going to be madness if you're a pitcher. Plus, you're just 2 weeks into it, where you're just trying to get your arm going.
Yeah, and that's a problem. What happened tonight? I know I'm jumping
Oh
ahead,
yeah.
but the Angel game tonight, Heaney was on a roll, and they took him
Mm-hmm.
out after 70 pitches or 64 pitches because they said he didn't get a chance to pitch those proper exhibition games. My thing is, if he didn't have the chance to pitch him, why start him as your ace? But they did. He pitched good, which I was surprised, but they had to take him out. And you're having guys like Kershaw got hurt the other day with an oblique on opening day, so he didn't start. There's just a lot of differences, and like you said, that universal DH is gonna help the National League teams big time, especially teams like the Dodgers who are built with a lot of offense, which guys that they would usually have to fight for extra positions or they'd have to sit them on the bench. Now they could start them and get the full, potential.
Man, and it doesn't help those old-fashioned National League people that love the pitcher bunting and all that, the scorecard
Yeah.
keeping. Now this just will throw that away. Say, hey, look at how much fun there is. Look at how many runs are being scored.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all this. So maybe in a couple of years, this will be the norm. Not the 60 games, but the universal DH.
Which I agree with. I think you're absolutely on point. It's going to force a lot of these old school guys, like you said, to turn the cheek and be like, wait a minute, this is a lot better. Instead of 2-1, 3-2, we're having 6-5, 7-6, and the games are more exciting. And the whole time of them crapping on the American League, now they're going to be like, well, it was kind of cool. I kind of don't want to go back to seeing a pitcher hit. So it's a good thing. And as far as a 60-game season, it's like what I heard Joe Maddon say, the manager for the Angels. He said, we're going to treat every game like a playoff game, which if every game was a playoff game like tonight, it really sucked. But you could tell watching the game tonight, they were managing it like it was a playoff game. It looked really intense from first pitch to last. And I'm hoping that all the games are like this. I'm hoping that these teams do take it like this because it's going to make it super exciting to the end of the season.
Yeah, no more of those August and September wasteful games.
Yeah.
Especially if you're with a fan of a horrible team. Like, I've been here in San Diego now for the last decade plus, and it seems like those July, August, September games are just useless.
Yes.
And people just stop caring after June because they know, oh, that player's going to get traded away, or that player got hurt, or we're just going to suck. So this is what I love about this 60-game 2020 season. And you've probably heard it so many times by now. It's not a marathon, it's a sprint.
Yes.
Which I can't do either. So no. So I'm gonna like that. And in the future, I'm hoping this will make the league change their amount of games from 162 to 154. I would love to see that coming up.
I don't think that'll ever happen, bro. The revenue that I know it's a good thing and everything, and I think that'll put more onus on it, even if they trim down to 130. I just don't think it's going to happen because you're going to have old school people that want the stats, and the players that are currently like Trout, they're going to lose out on a lot of games. So they're going to want the 162. And the revenue's through the roof if they lose. I mean, the money they're losing right now, but the money they're making, at least with TV, is going to help support and not put them in a bad spot. But the fact that, I think what MLB was smart too is the expansion of the playoffs. Because now you're going to get more teams in it, and I think they're taking a shot, and they're saying, okay, the teams like the Angels can get in if they just tread water. And they're hoping that teams like that make it because they have the Trouts, the Otanis, and stuff like that. And now with 16 teams, it livens it up a little bit more. I've been a fan of that forever since baseball only let 4 per league get in, which I
Mm-hmm.
hated. And it was like the worst out of all sports. So now we have an opportunity to have more teams in it. It's just more exciting. Even if it waters it down a little bit, the regular season, it's just more exciting, especially with this year with a 60 game season and every game counting. And you can't, like you said, you've been a fan of a bad team or whatever, or like say for instance the Orioles, they go on a
Oh,
5 6 game losing streak, they're done. 7 8 games because you only have 60. So the cream will rise to the top really fast, or at least the teams that are on the bubble will try to stay as close as they can to the bubble. So I'm really excited for this year. I thought I wasn't. The political crap kind of pushed me out of it a little bit, which we'll get into maybe. But as far as this, I think after tonight's game, even though it was a tough loss in extra innings, I still, for the most part, enjoyed myself. I thought it was good.
yeah. It was the first time you felt like it was April or May. It was the first time you felt like that because there was the graphics that all said opening day or opening week. It
Mm-hmm.
was real again. It was something, of course, we missed out on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think that I liked about it. Now, quickly, I'm gonna ask you, and I'll explain it first. I'll say, hey, what's one thing you've liked so far the first 2 days, and what's one thing you didn't like? For me, I liked the cardboard cutouts. I think some teams are getting
Creative.
creative. They like Tom Hanks. A young Tom Hanks was behind the Oakland home plate when he was selling hot dogs at the Coliseum. And
Mm-hmm.
then in San Diego, they had all these dogs as cutouts behind home plate. And then also in Oakland, they had like former players and their pictures as cutouts. So I really loved that. And the two part of what I've hated so far, I've hated the fake noise crowd that they've
Mm-hmm.
had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was watching the exhibition, and that's going to lead me on to the other part I hate. In the new Texas ballpark in Arlington or Irving, wherever that may be. I think in Arlington. Um, the Texas pitcher had someone on first, and he just threw over, and the crowd just went ballistic. I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" He just threw over to first, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like an instinct concert. They just went crazy when he threw the ball over to first. Could you
He's like,
imagine when a home run happens?
well, you know what? I think the guy pressed the wrong button, dude. He had to have. He probably should have pushed the boo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But they should go like a small amount of noise, mediums amount, and a large amount, and they should really invest in like time and trying to figure out what plays what noise level instead of just going crazy all. Because I was watching games pretty much all day, and it seemed like, well, especially in Oakland, it seemed like there was a tremendous amount of people there. When we know in Oakland and in Tampa, it's dead silent many times, unless the band keeps playing in right field in Oakland, right?
and the horns.
But I love that. A lot of people hate that,
Hmm.
but that's how Oakland. That's how they are, and they're Hey, I know it's bad for us as Angel fans or whatever. When we hear that, we know where we are, and unfortunately, hey, Oakland might be threatening or winning, but that's a good thing to be familiar with. Is like where you are and who you're playing. Just in case I went blind, I can't see anything. At least I could hear uh, where the game is. So I'm thinking like that. Okay,
Hmm.
and the other thing I really hate, and again, I saw this. I think during the week there was an exhibition at the new Texas Ranger ballpark, which looks like it's been mocked all over Twitter and social media. It looks like a barbecue grill, the way
Yes.
the outside of the ballpark looks. And then there was also, I think the Colorado Rockies trolled them on Twitter by putting their team logo, on a barn. and and it really does, dude. It looks like a shed or something. And they put so much money into this ballpark. It even caught on fire in the offseason, too, from what I remember when they were working on it. But inside, the sections are so quirky in there. Like, there's so many outfield seats. Like, there's too many outfield seats, first of all. They try to make it look like Minute Maid Park or Enron Field, if you're of age, what Houston had. Now, the great thing about it, hey, air conditioning in Texas in the summer, great. Retractable roof, finally. Finally, they got the idea. But, yeah, there's so many outfield seats. The fences are so far away. Behind the plate, they have like a little Jerry World where it's all suites behind home plate. They're not seats, but they have like tables and TVs. It looks like a Korean ballpark because they don't have any seats behind there. It just looks like a building is behind home plate. And all the ballparks that I know of in major leagues, there's expensive seats, but at least there's seats. There's not just like tables that are empty and TVs. And then they have this right field scoreboard that's like I think it's the biggest probably in the MLB, of course, but it's hanging in the outfield and it's way on the roof. It just doesn't make any sense. Like a ball could hit it and you have a catwalk situation like Tampa or St. Pete.
Oh, yeah.
So when they made this place, they didn't really think about all these things. And maybe it's just me nitpicking and be like, damn, well, I love the traditional way they made ballparks, But now you have to think about the revenue. You have to think about everything is bigger in Texas. You have to think about all that, and that's going to bring in more people. So you have to have all this new stuff, and you have to have more seats. You have to have all this new gadgets and everything. But yeah, Todd, the first couple of days, what's one thing you liked and what's one thing you didn't like, what you've seen so far?
Well, to hit on the Texas thing real quick, I haven't seen the stadium inside, so my thing was I like the old Arlington Stadium, and if they could have put a retractable roof on that would have been good because I know the temperatures there get to about 115 on the freaking field plus humidity in August and September, so teams struggled going in there, and then the Rangers struggled being good for a long time. Sort of like with Colorado with the air, they were kind of hampered. I think if Colorado would go to a traditional roof stadium, retractable, or even just a dome, I think they'd win more games. They can attract more free agents because a lot of people don't want to pitch there because of the altitude. With everything else, two things that I've hated, what I've liked so far is it seems like the pace of games are faster because they're not allowed to just put a pitcher in for one batter. There's not too many commercials. The game seems to flow a lot faster. Mound meetings are quicker. The managers and pitching coaches are actually jogging to the pitcher instead of walking. I also like the second base thing in the 10th inning, even though it cost us tonight. I do like that overall rule. I think it's going to make games, you're not going to be sitting up to 1, 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning on the East Coast trying to see a West Coast game that goes 14 to 16 innings. I don't think that's going to happen unless some quirky stuff happens for a game to go that long. I just like the pace of play. I think the things I've hated is what you've liked. I don't like the cardboard cutouts. I miss the fans. I think it's really sucky. And the number two thing I hate the most is every other commercial, if it's not Carl's Jr., it's reminding you about the pandemic. If it's not the pandemic, it's reminding you about social injustice and all this other stuff. I really think they could have gotten away from a lot of that stuff and just let us enjoy baseball. I think that was my problem before the social injustice stuff, and it was just pandemic being beaten down our throats on the NFL draft. I thought we just couldn't just sit back and watch players get drafted, be with their families. We had to be reminded every 5 seconds that nurses are this, people are essential here. Look out for these people here. Be careful. It's like, we know all this stuff. We just want to watch football. So I think it's the same thing with baseball. I've been turned off a little bit by that. I'm hoping as the week continues, that kind of stuff fades to the side whatever, and we just get into a more traditional, let's just play ball. Let's just focus on game to game and who's in the standings and whatnot, because we are playing a 60-game season. I don't care about all these other stuff that's going on. You know what I mean? If it affects someone else, tune into CNN, watch MSN, watch anything else. But we're here to play baseball. We're here to watch baseball. Can we just enjoy it, the game?
Mm-hmm. There's probably a lot of people that feel that way. You know, if I see a Black Lives Matter sign painted on the NHL hockey ice, that would be the time. That would really mean that something's going on. There'd be times changing. I know we won't do an NHL preview of the playoffs, but that would be something. You know, if you saw something like we've seen in baseball the last 2 days in the NHL, I think that would just be, not hilarious, but it'd just be like, really? But it'd be too much already.
Well, I think what was shocking enough is they did it in NASCAR, and so I mean, you had Trump's car out there, you had Black Lives Matter out there. I'm like, I wonder what all those people in the Midwest were thinking. Like, man, it's a sport, man. What are you gotta do? So I don't know. I mean, hockey would be like, hey, what do you think of that Black Lives Matter, hoser? Huh? What do you think that is? Hey, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know what it's about. They'll be like, is it a maple syrup thing?
Oh my God, would you imagine? Yeah, just those people in the South must be like crazy thinking about what happened in NASCAR right now. But of course, we won't do a NASCAR show. I don't think.
Absolutely not.
We know they just go straight and then they turn left. They go straight, they turn left. They try not to avoid each other. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, stupid me. I was out in the country for a couple of weeks, and I thought, as we segue into the MLB standings, I thought it was going to be just 3 divisions and 10 teams each.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. It was still going to be the 3 divisions in each league. I didn't know that. I was focused on other stuff and I was peaceful and all that. Anyway, how do you see, and we'll go back and forth about this, how do you see the AL West going in 2020?
Well, now with the new revelations of, I don't know if you if you heard too, with the 16 teams being eligible, 8 in each league, automatically the first and second place teams get in. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's a fight for the 2 wild card spots, which means now I'm going to give my team credit. And in the AL West, I'm going to go on a limb on this one. I am picking Oakland to win the division. I'm picking. Wow. Yeah, I think Oakland has a lot of, as you saw tonight, they have a lot of guys like last year, 8 of their 9 hitters hit over 20 home runs. They're pitching, they got the guy back who pitched tonight. Forgot his name. But he was suspended most of the year last year. But when he did pitch, he was 9-2 with a 2 ERA, very solid ace. If they would have had him, Oakland probably would have went further. Their starting pitching is very solid. Their bullpen's very solid. So they're going to be a dangerous team. Houston, I think, although they won today, I believe, they are going to be a marked team all year. They will get hit at some point. I just feel that they're going to take a little step back, being a 60-game season, being the fact they're going to have the target on their back. A lot of teams are going to play them a lot harder, sort of like when a Super Bowl team wins or loses, and then they come back and then everyone's got them, marked on their schedule. They give them their all. And I think Houston's going to fall back a tiny bit. And then third place, I was kind of going back and forth. I kind of wanted to give it to Texas because Texas did make a lot of nice additions to their team, and they're going to be a lot better than people think. And in the later months, like we talked about, they're not having to face that heat and humidity. But I'm going to give my team a little more credit, and I think they sneak in as the 7th or 8th wild card, so I put them at 3rd, and then the Rangers barely behind them, and then Seattle.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying about Seattle the last, since 2006. I think was the last time they were above 500. We've been saying just Seattle, Seattle. And today I looked at their roster. I'm saying they have no superstars at all. They have no stars whatsoever.
Yep.
And I think they're still paying for the Cano contract.
Yes, they are.
Even though he's in with the New York Mets.
Mm-hmm.
All they have is D. Gordon, and they got this DH, and that's about it in Seattle, just to think about it. What's amazing with Oakland, and that pitcher that you mentioned that got the no decision tonight was Frankie Montas.
There you go.
You don't know these guys by name. You can't recognize their face very much, but they play you hard, and they play everybody tough, and, every year it seems like, okay, maybe they get off to a little slow start, but by June, they're starting to kick up a little dust and making a run, and they get in the wild card, and maybe they'll make some noise. Maybe they won't. But at least they get there. Mm-hmm. And again, that the Billy Ball and how they don't spend money, Beanball, excuse me. It's just amazing how they've done this over the last, 3 or 4 years, or go back even more, like 2014. Where, again, they made certain moves that you didn't understand, but they always had somebody waiting. And even though you don't know their names, you do know you know them now, especially in the 60-game sprint. You know them pretty well because they're going to play, with this whole schedule, everybody's going to play each other in the same area of the country. So, and in your division, and then you're playing the NL West. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get to know these guys. It's going to be like the old days when there was an expansion where you play a team, 25 times, 26 times a year. It won't be like that, but it will be where you're playing them at least 20 times or at least 18 times a year. Mm-hmm. That's going to be fun to see. But with the AL West, again, I see Seattle in last. It's just they need everything. Like, they need everything and more. And I agree with you with Texas. It seems like they got, and I had to look this up, and I was like, really? They got all this starting pitching off of free agency and one trade, Corey Kluber from Cleveland, and they didn't give up much for him.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just saying, which was a smart move.
Yeah, man. And then they went out and got Jordan Lyles. They went out and got the pitcher from Minnesota, Kyle, forget his name, but they got a great rotation. The bullpen is pretty young and suspect. That's what's going to hurt when you get to those late innings and the pitch counts come up. That's what's going to hurt Texas. And then, as I mentioned, with the fences being moved out in the new ballpark, they have Joey Gallo. They have a few other power hitters. Old Durr even hit 30 home runs last year. And in that weather-controlled climate they're going to have indoors, that's going to really make a difference. They're not going to be scoring runs like they've had, all this time. It's going to be way different from what we've seen. And then I agree with you with the Angels. I think they have enough hitting. Again, we didn't have what's his name? The third base, Anthony Rendon. Mm-hmm. He was having some oblique issues, I believe, and of course he would have made a difference in tonight's game. The amazing thing I think you have to think about, and they mentioned this on the ESPN telecast with the Angels, you have David Fletcher, but not at a set position, because you have the infield, as you know what it is. You have Rendon, you have Simmons, you have La Stella, and you have Albert. But David Fletcher is the odd man out, and you got to have him have at-bats. Mm-hmm. And you can't use him as a DH because Ohtani's the DH. Mm-hmm. So I'm really worried about Fletcher trying to fit in as good as he can be, although he swings and misses a lot being a leadoff guy.
I think what they're going to interesting. Yeah, I think what they're going to do is it's going to be interesting to see if Ohtani hits tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to have him rest the day before and the day after. Hopefully it's just one of the days. But I think if they do have him rest one of the days, whether before or after his start as a pitcher, I think you will see Pujols move into the DH, and then they'll move Listella to first, and then put Fletcher at second.
Yeah, you got to have Fletcher in there. And with Otani, I'm trying to remember last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, whenever the day before he pitched, if he was hitting, and I think he was. And in the 60-game season, you might, rush him in and just say, screw it. He's going to have to do it. He's going to have to be in that lineup no matter what. So the rotation of Texas, Kyle Gibson, Corey Kluber, Jordan Lyles, Lance Lynn, and Mike Minor. Those are all great names. Like, 3 or 4 years ago for sure.
Absolutely.
But I couldn't believe the moves that they made, and they had the room to make it, of course. So yeah, Angels in third. But that rotation, it makes me think. But with the Angels, maybe they have enough offense. And then I gotta go second place with Oakland. It all depends on how the Astros rotation goes, because we know with Cole leaving to go to the Yankees how big that is for Houston. And they don't have Alvarez right now. He's injured. Their DH or their outfielder. But they still have a lot of talent on that Houston ball club, as much as, everybody hates them. But I think they'll still have enough to get first place. And then Oakland and the Angels probably will get in. And Texas will be the odd team out. I would say that. So how do you see the AL Central going in 2020?
The AL Central, I think only like the two teams will make it out of here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go through. The two teams will make it out of here because I believe the other wild card will be from the East. But the AL Central, I really like what the White Sox did. They made a lot of under the radar moves with hitting, with bullpen help, and of course getting our guy Keuchel, which I really wanted to be on the Angels pitching staff. I was really disappointed he went to Chicago. I believe though with him, and I think they're going to be strong enough to get second place in that division. First place, I'm going to give the Twins. I think longevity and the fact they've built a solid roster. They're going to be tough to play against, and they're just a really battle-tested team. I think they actually have a shot at making a deep run this year. They might be one of my dark horses going into the playoffs. And in third place, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Spiders, Caucasians, whatever they're going to call them instead of the Indians, because they even don't have Indians on their jersey anymore, which is very disappointing. I've always liked the Cleveland Indians as a team. Those movies will be a lot different now watching, what's it called? The ones, Major League.
Major League.
Yeah. Chief Wahoo's not there no more. I mean, they're scared to put just Indians on it. So it's pretty PC of them. So I'm not picking them third for that reason. I'm picking them third because to me, there's some sort of problem in that team, that the fact that you can lose two aces that wanted to leave. The one went to Cincinnati. He opened his mouth, was very vocal. He couldn't stand it there. And then Kluber, who was, a great guy who was the ace of your staff, and you just dumped him to Texas, which didn't make much sense. And then you were almost going to get rid of, God, I'm blanking on names, their third good pitcher.
Mike Clevenger, Carlos Carrasco.
Yeah, Clevenger. Yeah, you almost lost.
That would have. Wow. Because he's very young too.
Yes, he is, and he actually was in trade talks, and the Angels were in trade talks with Carrasco and Kluber. They wanted both of them, and the Angels actually got pretty close to getting both of them. So they could have lost, 4/5 of their rotation just right there in the offseason. And you just don't do that. I mean, to me, there's something wrong in Cleveland. I think they've lost a couple hitters too. So I do see them falling back to third. And then I got the Royals improving a little bit, but they're still going to be sort of cellar dwellers. It's hard to believe that team was in back-to-back World Series not too long ago. and then, because I can only name them Alex Gordon that's on that team and a couple others. Their Salvador Perez, great catcher. And then Detroit is just a hot mess, dude. Detroit's just all you have to do is realize that Miguel Cabrera is still their starting first baseman. And that should
Yeah,
tell you where their team is. And I think that team they should have blown it up 2 years ago, and they still haven't blown it up. They're still holding on to some veterans on that team, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I got Detroit in solid fifth place.
yeah. They have some young guys coming up in the outfield. They were making these great catches in the scrimmages,
Mm-hmm.
but that was scrimmages, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, they brought back Cameron Maben, which they drafted him probably back in 2001.
Yeah.
So it's funny seeing him back with the Tigers after all the teams he's been with. Remember, he was with the Angels that one year. They released him, and then the Astros picked him up. He ended up getting a ring with Houston. Just another thorn to our side, I guess. But
Yeah. Right.
yeah. And another thing, C.J. Cron, I found out today, is with
Is a Tiger.
the Tigers, along
Mm-hmm.
with Miguel Cabrera. But other from that, they just have Michael Fulmer, Ivan Nova, who's become just nothing really, just
Mm-hmm.
out of rotation, in rotation. Jody Mercer, Jonathan Scope. People that's been places up, people that's been better in other places, but now their careers are starting to wind down. They're just trying to find a job anywhere, pretty much. And
Yeah.
Detroit's that place. At the top of my head, I don't know where they are in minor league rankings, but I would love to know because um, you mentioned the White Sox with all the youth that they have, and then all the pickups they had. They look like they're skyrocketing to
Yes.
the top of division. Not at the top because I think Minnesota is clearly tops there with Josh Donaldson coming over
Mm-hmm.
free agent deal. Also have Nelson Cruz. No matter what you think about him, I don't think any of his stuff counts. But anyway, he's a DH. He's 40.
Yeah, even though he's 40, dude still hit 35 homers or something last year.
Yeah, and think about that in a climate like Minnesota. I don't know how many were home and road, but those early and late months have got to be hard on those power hitters because you can't get the ball out in the cold temperatures unless you
True.
really stick it. By the
That's what
way,
she said.
you mentioned with the Twins, they they have a good solid rotation. Homer Bailey, young Jose Burrows, who's just looking
Mhm.
awesome. Rich Hill and Kenta Maeda. You know who those two people are.
Two Dodgers,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so they both came over, and Marlon Gonzalez. They
But
look
there's
pretty good.
but they're solid. They're solid guys that'll eat up innings, and
Yeah.
whenever you could take stress off your bullpen, that's what you need.
hmm And then you mentioned with the Cleveland whatevers.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna just chill on that because I don't know who's listening out there, but they'll probably get at me. Oh, you can't call him that anymore. No, 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 no. The situation with Francisco Lindor has just been toxic the last couple of years because they couldn't make, after the World Series, they couldn't make it. They've got rid of pieces like you mentioned. They just cannot agree on an extension with him. And the owner even came out last year. And I'm not sure if I can even say the word owner. I
Mhm.
just did, though. Um, there's a thing where, hey, the owner said we're probably not going to bring him back when he becomes a free agent. And that pisses off your fan base more than ever. Like, they're lucky fans, aren't allowed in the gates this year. After saying that, I know it was last year, but after saying that, I'm thinking, what? Like you mentioned, what is Cleveland doing? Like, where are they going? I know they have some young guys coming up, but you got Lindor, who's a great player, no doubt, great personality and all that. You want to keep a guy like that around
Mhm.
any way you can because he's one of those guys that will make your team relevant. Unless you want to drop down like in the movie, Major League and just be irrelevant again and all that. Maybe you want to be like the Royals and the Tigers. I don't think you want to be,
No, you don't.
but that's how I see. I see, yeah, two spots coming. Minnesota and the White Sox. It's just their pitching's got to come through. Their bullpen's got to come through. They had a hard time today with their bullpen. So that'll be interesting to see. But those two, Minnesota and Chicago, are the ones to look out for. And if there's any debacle in Cleveland, you'll hear it from us first that the Tribe are not going to do well. What do you see in the AL East?
AL East, I see a flip flop of teams that could either finish, because I think the seventh spot will go to the Rays or the Red Sox. Yankees are going to clearly walk away with that division. Now, having a power ace like Garrett Cole doesn't help in a 60-game season. You know, he's only going to pitch every 5 games, but it will pitch if he's super effective. But I think in the long run, with the Yankee rotation the way it is, how easy it is to hit at Yankee Stadium, the up and down power of the lineup, I would not be shocked if they didn't reach the World Series. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't win the World Series. I'd just be shocked if they didn't get there. I'm hoping they don't, because I really don't like the Yankees. But they're the class of the East, and I think they're probably going to be the best team in baseball, or best team at least in the American League. And then you got the Red Sox, who could flip flop. I really want to pick them third and give the Rays a little more credit because of their manager, who he does a great job. He's disciple
Kevin
of Maben.
Cash.
Yep, and he's got a great staff around him. The pitching's always good in Tampa, and they have sneaky good hitters. But again, it's a 60-game season, so if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with Boston finishing second. I think they're going to do a lot better than they did last year. Their pitching was a joke last year, and they had some injuries. I think they rebound a little bit, and I think they finish second. Tampa will finish third, which will be the 7th spot, just ahead of the Angels. And then over there you got the Toronto, which to me, I want to watch Toronto for all the second generation players.
Yeah.
They have like 4 or 5 that are already in the majors, and for some reason they have 2 or 3 more in the minors. So you could potentially have a lineup of second generation players in the AL East, which would be pretty cool. And then you got Ryu from the Dodgers, who's an instant ace for them. They have some young pitching, but I still think they're still about a year or 2 away. But they will be exciting. They will be in a lot of baseball games, and they're going to give teams fits. So they'll be a good 4th place. And then the dregs of that division will be the Baltimore Orioles, who on my video game, Chris Davis, who they paid all that money to, who he couldn't hit the Mendoza line and all this other stuff. On the video game, the computer picked him 9th and put him 9th in the order. So and then they didn't even start him when I had a lefty in there. They're like, nah, he's not worth it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah.
You think of his downfall, and it's amazing. I mean, he's still getting paid, no doubt.
Yeah.
But everybody's gone from that era that they had a playoff run with in the middle part of last decade.
Which is crazy. They were a consistent team on either cusp or they were in the playoffs.
Yeah. And remember, they were like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a long time ago before that. Then they sucked, even with Cal Ripken after they won. And then they were just in the middle. They couldn't get higher. They couldn't get lower. And all of a sudden, they start getting this young talent. Adam Jones, J.J. Hardy, along with Chris Davis. And now he's the lone part left from all that. And they have nothing really to show for it. I did want to mention with the Orioles. Yeah, no. They have Jose Iglesias, and this would brings up the trade deadline talk. I think it's August 31st. I could see Iglesias being someone to be traded to a team that really needs a shortstop. You never know, injuries, virus. You never know, anything can happen to someone.
True.
And with Toronto, you mentioned the 4 guys. Travis Shaw, and we know his father, Jeff Shaw, the former Dodger closer.
And Reds closer, yeah.
Yeah, Vlad Jr., Biggio, and Bichette. That's amazing. That's, I think, the first time there's been 4 players where they've had fathers play on the same team. Or they had fathers that played in the major leagues,
Mm-hmm.
and the 4 sons are on the same team. And they were 1 through 4 in the order today.
Oh,
I
nice.
love that stat where they happened to be there. All that is good and well, and they have Ryu, that, like you mentioned, and Matt Shoemaker. Remember that guy?
He's a
Uh,
decent pitcher.
yeah, he'd be the ace now for the Angels.
He would
Uh,
be.
Other from that, they got the power. They got the power for sure. Like you said, they'll be fun, but their bullpen will let them down, and they'll be in 4th place.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we switch up, because with the Red Sox, you really don't know how much someone means to you until they're gone. And I know that sounds corny as hell, but when you think about how much Mookie Betts loved to play in Fenway Park with all the dimensions, and he could just run for triples, doubles, or whatever, that's going to hurt him in the lineup. When they had the B-boys going, Bradley, Bogarts, and Betts, they really had something special there. And now that he's gone, they did trade for Verdugo, which they didn't even put in the lineup today, which just didn't make any sense. And their starting pitching is really dumbed down. I mean, they have Nathan Eovaldi, and that's pretty much it. And when you thought of Boston, they had a pretty good rotation. When they weren't on chicken and beer, they were pretty good. They were pretty good pitchers. But now that, even though that they have a great designated hitter in J.D. Martinez, that's their one money player that they've paid, that he's still there. He's not going to go anywhere, of course, because he's old, but he's going to make that money. Jackie Bradley Jr., Benintendi, and Verdugo and Pilar, that's a pretty good outfield there. But they're going to struggle maybe to score some runs unless they start gap hitting in Boston. But I see him in 3rd place just because of that starting pitching. It's just not there for the Red Sox. In 2nd place, I really do see the Rays getting in the playoffs. Even though Blake Snell didn't want to play this year, he is pitching for the Rays. I remember there was something he said, I think, on a video game stream. He was like, "Bro, I'm risking my life," when they were talking about playing with the virus and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing I remember from the offseason for sure. But their starting rotation: Tyler Glasnow, Charlie Morton, even though he lost today.
I like Morton a lot. I've always liked that.
Yeah. He had a rough opening start today. But what I always remember about Charlie Morton, when he was a Pirate, he was trying to figure out how to pitch. He would replicate Roy Halladay's motion, and he got better from that. And we all know about Roy Halladay, how much he meant to certain pitchers growing up. So that's a cool story about Charlie Morton and how that relates to Halladay. Their bullpen is really good for the Rays. You don't know their names, but they're pretty good. Their lineup, they made some moves. They traded Tommy Pham to San Diego. They got Marget Marco. They got Hunter Renfroe. So those are 2 former Padres. And it seems like there's former Padres everywhere. And but I think that's going to help their lineup. They're not going to wow you with power, but they're going to do just enough. And their lineup with Kittemeyer, I was going to say, Longoria, but that's a long time ago. So they'll sneak in. They have Mike Zunino as catcher. And I think they'll be one of the wild. They'll be in there. With the Yankees, of course, I heard somebody say this, and I was like, "Oh, really?" They're like, "Okay, this is probably the best lineup they've had since 1998."
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember all the people they had in '98. I know they were all juiced up, probably except Jeter, but
you had Scott Brosius, Bernie Williams, Knobloch, David Justice, Jorge Posada. Let's see, who was the? I know I'm missing an outfielder. Shoot.
Paul Martinez.
Tino Martinez.
I don't know. Paul was there too.
Paul Neal, Tino Martinez. Yeah, they had a killer squad. There's no doubt about it. They could rake from 1 to 9.
But I don't want to play all these. Oh, but would you compare him to this? And I don't want to do all that. But
No,
when
no.
you look at the lineup of Aaron Judge and Stanton, and you have the slapping hitting of Gardner and the power of Aaron Hicks, that's formidable for sure. They have a young, great young infield. Gary Sanchez, when he can think, when he cannot do stupid things behind the plate, they can go far for sure. So I see them, of course, in first place and easily making it in. Again, where they play, like you mentioned, I see that. So that's the American League, and we'll figure out everything else. So for the National League, how do you see the National League West going?
I think it's the Dodgers and everybody else. They're going to win, I think, again for the 8th straight year, the division. Obviously picking up Mookie. What shocked me is I thought Mookie Betts would play this year with the Dodgers and then return to the East Coast, either Boston or someone in the National League. I didn't think at all he would re-up, and I think that shocked even Dodger fans for him to get a 12-year deal. And now the Dodgers, in a sense, are locked up with a lot of players now with high salaries. Now, you would think that this would not be a problem, and it might not be, but as we move into the collective bargaining agreement, there's going to be more of an emphasis on salary cap, and it's going to hurt teams that are just shelling out money like the Yankees and Dodgers. We saw this a few years back when the salary cap was first put in. The Yankees actually cut payroll for the first time in like however many years, 20 years, and they actually went down, and they actually got rid of guys instead of adding them, and it kind of suffered for a little while. The Dodgers, however, play in a division that is so predictable. Now, with the San Diego Padres, though, I will say this. They have made a jump with their farm system and also adding guys like Jerickson Profar, Tommy Pham, like you mentioned, and you had, what's his name from Baltimore last year who came over, the third baseman. Manny Machado. You have a great young player at Tatis who hit 21 homers and 60-something RBIs in 80 games. So a full season of him would be great. And then you have nice young players. You have Hedge behind as a catcher. Starting rotation, they added our boy Garrett Richards. They have other solid starters. Their bullpen is phenomenal. So I do think the Padres, talent-wise, are creeping closer to the Dodgers. Star-wise, they are not. And I think the Dodgers will still throw at you Betts, Bellinger, Muncy, Kike Hernandez, who's taking it up a notch. They'll still throw Bueller. They'll still throw Kershaw, regular season Kershaw, may I add, not playoff Kershaw, but regular season Kershaw you'll get, and he's tough to beat. And then you've got, the back end of the rotation's a little iffy, but I think the Dodgers, I will be shocked if they do not win this division. I mean, really, really, really shocked. I think they walk away with it. I think the Padres get in as a second, which will be great, automatic second place playoff team. And then from there down, don't count on any other team making it in the West. I have no faith in the Diamondbacks, even though they added the what's his name, the starting pitcher from the Giants. Bumgardner, and yes, they added the strikeout king Cole Calhoun, but they've lost a few guys too. They might be dangerous in the beginning, but I think they're going to fade in the second half, and I just don't count on the Diamondbacks to make the playoffs. The Rockies are so predictable because they'll hit the crap out of the ball in Coors Field, but they won't pitch and they'll give up 10 runs and lose a 10-9 game. Then they'll go on the road and they just won't perform at all. They'll either have the hitting there or the pitching. They can never put both together, so never count on the Rockies. And then as far as the Giants, I mean, dude, this is barely a step up from a AAA squad. They're going to suck. I mean, they lost again tonight. They lost the first game 8-1 to the Dodgers, and they said, you know what? Let's give them one more run. They lost 9-1 tonight. So Giants are going to suck. I think they're going to be as bad as the Marlins. No, take that back. I think the Marlins will be better. But that's, yeah.
Florida Marlins. Well, not Florida, but Miami. I still say Florida. I mean, they were all right for those 2 years. Yeah, I'm looking at the Giants, roster. I'm thinking, man, they got Cueto. They got Samardzija, who's always hurt.
I forgot about that guy.
You do, because he's stuck. He's not. He's either injured or he doesn't get run support, and he gets a lot of no decisions, a lot of losses. Bullpen is like, who? Trevor Gott. I know you remember him from the Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter Pence, Mike Yastrzemski, not Carl, but Mike.
The grandson.
Yeah, but that's, man, you got Pablo Sandoval. Quarantine Pablo Sandoval.
But see, you have Sandoval at his age batting third. Now, that would have made sense 6 seasons ago. Now, I don't think so.
They're for sure going to be in last. That's how I see that. And then
and their manager. I forgot to hit on their manager. Sorry to cut you off, but
Gabe Kapler. Gabe
Kapler was ran out of Philly for being incompetent, and then San Francisco's like, "Come here, yeah, you're the best. Come over."
For one season, he was with Philadelphia. He had no managerial experience before that. Mm-hmm. How does he get another job right away with San Francisco?
I have no clue.
I'd rather just give it to the first base coach. I forget her name, but she's been, of course, all over the news. I'd rather just let her manage, like an Eddie situation, one of my favorite movies. I would have just let her manage and say, hey, do whatever you want to do. Becky Hammond, do whatever you want to do. This team ain't going anywhere anyway, and we know that. We're just trying to get the first pick. Yeah. And hopefully there's someone there that can catapult us. Mm-hmm. Same situation, kind of like Baltimore. Great ballpark, horrible team. We're just trying to get better, but between Colorado, Arizona, I can say Colorado, again, they don't have the pitching. They have some names, but playing in that ballpark, like you mentioned, they have one guy who, let's do our trivia at the end of this. They have one guy that I didn't know he was a Rocky, but damn it, he's there. They're pretty good player, Charlie Backman, which they re-upped, and they have him for a long time. He loves hitting there. Never have to shave.
Trevor Story, too.
Yeah, Trevor Story. When you think about it, it's like, damn, you have those two all-stars, but you still can't get second place. Like, you still can't get over that hump. And it just goes to show with all the pitching. Like, they've tried for years. Mike Hampton, get him over there. Jason Jennings, try to get him over in free agency, but they couldn't do anything. Arizona, like you mentioned, Cole Calhoun did hit a home run today, but that was about it for the Diamondbacks offense. Again, with Bumgarner, you're getting someone for 5 years, $85 million. I think that kind of shocked people, but they were banking on, he had a good couple of last years. I know he's getting older, but they don't see the future. They don't see the big picture with him that, this could be the end. That's why the Giants didn't bring him back. You see that as a sign. They have a solid lineup. That's why I put him at third. And every year I say this, hey, maybe this is the year for San Diego. This is, again, the city that lost their football team that really needs something, especially in a pandemic, to watch and to be a part of, even though they can't be there. Pretty much, hey, most of their farm system is up offensively. They have 2 starting pitchers that may come up this season that'll really catapult them. They have one of the best bullpens, the second best bullpen in the majors. The Yankees have the first, according to the experts out there. Pretty good, decent, young starting rotation with Paddock, who got the win tonight. You have Zach Davies, Lement, LaCasey, and Richards, like you mentioned. Their lineup should be able to score a lot of runs and not get pop-ups and strikeouts. That was one thing about spacious Petco Park. That, hey, probably not going to hit a lot of home runs. You got to shoot for the gaps. And with Tommy Pham and with Machado, hey, you don't have to hit every home run. You don't have to go for it all every time and strike out. Just get singles and doubles. That's what I've heard fans say. Hey, Just do what Tatis does. I know he's way younger than you, but do what he does. With the Dodgers, it just seems like they have the riches of everything.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what the hell they've done. it'll all work out. Now we'll see with Cody Bellinger how much they have to put aside to keep Cody with the Dodgers. That's what I want to see when that comes up. But it just seems like, hey, all their minor league talent has worked out for so long. They have like the 7th or 8th grade minor league system. It's just amazing. So I see LA and San Diego going in. The Central, what do you think about the NL Central?
The NL Central is a little bit of a toss-up to me. Like I said, two teams will come out the West. And one other thing on the Dodgers, real quick, before we move on, if I could, they still got Lux. They're in the same position as the Angels, where you have Adele and Lux. Both players are like the next big thing for both teams. But for whatever reason, they left them off the roster for the regular season. So that was kind of weird. But the future is bright for the Dodgers, like you said. The Central, I'm going to start last. I'm going to go, and I hate saying this because I love the ballpark. I like the team. I liked Clint Hurdle's tenure. I just felt that they ran into their GM let them down a couple times by not adding a couple good aces, a couple good hitters to go along with what they had. They lost out on good years of McCutchen, and Marte's gone. They're playing with a few house guys that they brought in, but for the most part, I feel bad for the Pirates, but they are rebuilding and they got some young talent. But I would be crazy not to pick them fifth. Fourth place in that division. I really like what the Reds have been doing outside of Votto. They're stuck with Votto's contract, but the Reds have been adding a few pitchers finally, and their starting rotation will look decent for the first time. Their bullpen is getting better as well. It pitched really good last year. And then their hitting has improved too. They locked up a couple good hitters. The young kid, escaping my mind, the leadoff guy. He's done really good. The Reds should be a solid 4, and not threaten for a wild card. I think that those two teams are going to be down there, but they are going to be just pesky teams. This is where I kind of went back and forth. I really like it's hard to count out the Cardinals. It just is, because, and when they announced the wild card, I'm like, okay, 3 teams are coming from this division, but I might be wrong on that as well, because when we get to the East, I'll tell you about the East, but in my opinion, but the Central, I'm going to stick my head out there and put the Cardinals at 3rd. I trust the Cardinals, but I think Chicago's going to finish a very close 2nd. Even though they beat Milwaukee today, I think Milwaukee's going to just by a single hair or a game win that division. I think their hitting is going to come around big time as the season progresses, and their pitching is not going to scare you with names, but they've got great stuff. And the back end of that bullpen with Hader, and if you can get to Hader, game over. And so I do like Milwaukee to finish 1st, barely over Chicago, and I actually think that the Cardinals get edged out by a game and miss the wild card.
That other from the bottom 2, which we agree on, and I know Cincinnati made moves. It seemed like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, they just seem to get in each other's way and keep each other down. And they like to fight each other too, like we seen last year.
They
twice.
Yeah.
They fought last year twice. It was the same people. So they're just gonna, hey, maybe Cincinnati might look good for a second, but then they realize, oh yeah, we're not as good as those other 3, like you mentioned. With the Cardinals, it always seems like, hey, we don't know these guys, but they come up the Cardinal way, and they just know how to play. Mm-hmm. And that's just the craziest part about St. Louis. And it makes me sad as an Angel fan to know, hey, we got Albert Pujols at the end of his career, and not when he was really great with him. But they were the smarter team not to bring him back. But you got all these young pitchers, but they all are really good, except Wainwright, who's going down in his career, but he's still there for advice. And Yadier Molina, I'm wondering when he's going to retire. He's been playing since, 2004?
Yeah.
And I just wonder when he'll retire, maybe after this season. Uh, Bringing in Paul Goldschmidt last year, that was the thing that kept him on top of people's minds that say, hey, maybe they'll have a drop off. Maybe they're not so good. Then they get Goldsmith, and they're really good. They have all these young guys. Again, they just know how to play. Along with the Cubs. Now, this is the tricky thing. You get a first-year manager coming from an ESPN studio. Now, stop me if that sounds familiar, with Alex Cora and Aaron Boone and whoever else out there. I want to see what mentality he brings to the Cubs. It seemed like they were having fun today. Like, they were all having fun. David Ross is sort of like the substitute teacher. There's no really structure there. They're just out there just having fun. Maybe that's what baseball is now. There's no more, guidance and structure and Larry Boa strictness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be interesting to see. They have a couple of great starters, but their bullpen is a little suspect for Chicago. And I agree with you with Milwaukee. They're clearly the tops. Again, with Hader, you get them there, and they Knievel's back for him, and that will only help him.
Absolutely.
As he was out all last year. I think that's what hurt him in that wild card game last year against Washington. So I got Milwaukee first, and then for the Central, it seems to me it's really a toss-up. I mean, they could both tie or whatnot, but I think you have 3 wild cards in there, or 3 playoff teams in there for sure. But I'll go St. Louis over Chicago for second and third. Now, this one is kind of tricky here with the NL East.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about them?
Well, because the NL East, to me, I believe is the best division in baseball. If you cut the Marlins out of it.
I was going to say.
Yeah. If you cut the Marlins out of it, the top 4 teams have amazing talent and are teams that you have to watch. Although the Mets were hit with a real bad hand the other day, they're losing Stroman to Tommy John. Marcus Stroman on that rotation was going to elevate the Mets, in my mind, to a postseason team. What I'm thinking now is starting from the bottom. The Marlins are going to be the second worst team in the National League, maybe a second worst or maybe third worst in all of baseball. And from there, cut them off. I had the Mets in third, but prior without Stroman, and maybe, Cespedes is still, he's going to be probably the DH. They're saying he's back and whatnot, but we don't know what you're going to get with him. I think there's some question marks, but the bullpen and starting pitching is going to be great. Now, can they hit? That's the only thing. Older guys in the lineup like Cano, like I said, Cespedes, other players. It's going to be a wonder if they're going to be, the type of team. They also lost, who's the guy that went to the Padres? I want to say, he's a Dominican player. Long something or other. Anyway, they lost him, and he was one of these fourth outfielders. He was a really good player for and he's going over the Padres. And I think the Mets have too much of a veteran offense. I think they have God, what's his name too? I'm blanking too. The guy used to be on the Cardinals and the Angels, third baseman, white guy. He's over
Todd
there.
Frazier.
Yeah, they have Frazier still. So
no, I saw Frazier in
he's on another team now?
With the Rockies.
Oh, he's on the Rockies. Okay. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Texas.
Okay.
It's with Texas.
But if you look up and down their lineup, if it's not veterans, and besides the NL MVP last year and home run leader, they really don't have any young talent. So I believe that, and then the pitching, like I said, that's going to hold them back. I think they're going to finish a disappointing fourth, but they will win some games, and they will play teams very hard. And that division is going to be a toss-up for a while. It's not going to be determined in that first month. It's going to come down to, I think, that last week. So with that being said, I spent too much time on the Mets. I believe the Phillies fall to third. I think the Phillies do have a good bullpen. Starting pitching, a little suspect. They can hit all day, and they're going to be a hard team to beat. And then as far as second place in that division, I'm gonna go with the Braves, Acuna and Hakuna Matata, whatever you want to call them. They have a really good lineup, and Freddie Freeman coming off the COVID, and um, they're also managed really well, and they're going to be in a lot of baseball games. And I swear, it's going to come down to that final game, and they are probably going to lose out to the Washington Nationals. Now, losing Rendon was huge, but I think they've added a couple players. They still have a very, very solid rotation. They bring that rotation back with Strasburg and Scherzer and the dude that came over from Arizona, used to be on the Angels,
Corbin.
and Corbin. They have a solid rotation, and their team is, and unfortunately too, Soto went out with COVID, so it's going to be about a week or two. We'll see how that affects them. But offensively, they do have the pieces, a lot of young pieces that are hitting, and I think between them, Philly, and Atlanta, it's going to be super close. And I think both wild cards come out of that division. I actually think the Mets have enough to jump the Cardinals at that 8th spot. So I'm thinking four of those 5 get into the postseason.
Wow. Well, quickly with the Marlins.
Can I make one more prediction before you
go?
go?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Don Mattingly will be the first skipper fired.
Dude, and you know what? You know how Derek Jeters are running things, and Don Mattingly's in there saying, "Hey, no beards, no mustaches. This is Yankee South without the wins, of course." That's tough to think, but if someone gets really impatient and being like, "Okay, we're supposed to progress, not deprogress." Maybe that'll happen. I always thought the first manager I didn't think he would even last after last year was David Bell of Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
In those 2 brawls that they had with Pittsburgh, it seemed like he was in the middle of them. Like he was cheap shotting Hurdle. He was urging his players to go fight Pittsburgh. I thought he would have been gone after last year. I guess they vouched for him, but I think if they don't have a great start, I think he'd be the first one to go just because of what happened last year. Because it's like he's taking everything personal from like 20, 30 years ago. And I know he was a pretty good player with Seattle or whatever, but he's just not a managerial type to me. But Don, at least he has a little credibility. But his team just doesn't have any credit at all. Like, really, looking at the roster, Jonathan Villar, Corey Dickerson, and Francisco Cervelli, who barely played last year. He's probably on the way out. They're like the Orioles and the other bad teams out there, Detroit. They really have nothing you can bounce on. But they're going to be last for sure. And I'm not with you with the Nationals, and I wish I was, because you look at the starting pitch, and you're saying, well, that's as best as you can get. Well, money-wise, it's like the best you could pay for with Strasburg and Max Scherzer, and you saw how clutch they were last year along with Corbin. To me, it feels like one of those one-and-done runs, that save, get a new ballpark or whatever, that it just magically happens and you remember that more than anything else that ever happens in a franchise. It feels like that, and I'm sad to say I just don't see him making it in, but I hope I'm wrong. They still have pretty much everybody there except Fernando Rodney and Rendon, pretty much. That's about it. I hope I'm wrong, but I'll put him in 4th. Okay. The top. Oh, damn it. With that Stroman news, and I forgot all about it. I'm gonna switch. I still don't think Washington gets in, but I think everything you mentioned with New York, they do have Pete Alonso, and Cespedes is the DH, and they still have a great rotation. The thing is, they got to score. And that was the thing with DeGrom last year. Even though he won the Cy Young Award, his win-loss record was just awful. And his no decisions were way high. So I put the Mets fourth and the Nationals third. The two that get in, I see, is Philadelphia in second and Atlanta in first. I really believe in the Braves. I know they lost Donaldson in free agency, but when I look at their lineup, first of all, they got a lot of youth, and then they have some veterans in the outfield: Marcelo Osuna, Inciarte, and then you put youth Acuna Jr., who's just one of the main young guys in our league, along with Albies and Freddie Freeman when he comes back. Their pitching is decent. I think it's better than Philadelphia's because they just have Nola in the starting rotation. But I think it all depends on what Bryce Harper does.
Mm-hmm.
And that harps back to me saying what one guy means in a lineup. If Bryce Harper can get back to his form, being a badass, being all that, maybe they'll get first place. But I still don't see him getting first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the World Series, I'll just jump right to that. Who do you think will be in it and who will win it, and in how many games?
Oh, wow. If I had to say, I have Oakland and the Twins making a run, but I think overall the Yankees, if I had to pick safe, gun to my head, give me the Yankees out of the AL, National League. I'm putting faith in the Nationals, and I know you're not, but I think it's going to come down. I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come down to the Nationals and surprisingly the Brewers. I think the Dodgers are going to get knocked out again early.
Wow.
And that's my big prediction right there. I think the Dodgers will get knocked out in that second round prior to the NLCS. I think they're just going to get hopped like they were by the Nationals, but maybe this time by the Brewers.
That's yeah.
Oh, and so then prediction on wins, give me the Yankees in 6.
I have pretty much the same with the Yankees facing the Dodgers, and the Yankees winning in 6. I have the same thing. The bad part about it, I guess, for MLB is all the revenue they're going to miss out, and all the overcharging of those World Series tickets. Imagine that if there was fans in the stands, and oh man, how many celebrities would go to both games?
Let's just say this. Imagine if we were to flip a switch right now or a couple days prior and say, okay, the COVID is not a problem anymore. And me and you and everyone can go to a baseball game and we could all purchase tickets. Instead of those games where you're seeing 15,000 in even a good team's ballpark during the middle of summer, during the middle of the week, you realize how hard it would be to get a baseball ticket in the 60-game season when you have marquee matchups, important games. The stands will be full all season to the playoffs, and then the playoffs will just, like you said, be overcharged games, overcharged parking, overcharged food. The MLB will be making money hand over fist. So I know the TV contracts are going to be paying off certain things, but the stadium revenue is, oh my God, what a loss. What a loss.
Could you imagine? Imagine that, a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, but that's what I really want to know after the season, like how much money the league has lost. I really want to know that. And I want the owners to open up the books for once. I know they won't, but I know there are some players out there saying that before we go back and playing, before you offer us another deal, let's see what you got in the bank. All right, quickly. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's the other thing that can change though. The regular season could play out and with no fans, but maybe it's a part where when it comes to postseason, because remember, postseason will be kicking off in October and in November. And in football right now, they're still saying, well, we're going to let people come to the games. We're going to let you sign waivers and this all things, the mask and whatnot. Maybe by then baseball can say, okay, the teams that made the playoffs, we can have fans, or we can have 60% fans, something, right?
Yeah. You know what? I want to ask this too, really quick. I say, what's the percentage of what you think? What's the percentage that there isn't a World Series this season because of the COVID
Uh, I
and
only
the
put.
second wave that's supposed to come, supposedly
Oh,
the
okay.
second
So
wave?
yeah, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think we're seeing a second wave if there is one right now. Um, I would have to say 20%. There's a 20% chance that we could not finish this season.
Dude, I was with Keith Olbermann in his same way of thinking, being like, there isn't going to be a World Series. You can start the season, we can all do this, we can all do that, and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I don't think. I was thinking there won't be, and little by little, as I'm seeing players getting tested, and some are positive, some are, of course, negative. But I just wonder now, after the first week, when they go travel, when they go back and forth, to all these cities or whatever, I'm wondering how that's going to go. But I wanted to ask you that for sure because I know how you feel about it. But
I
the
think
traveling,
the league is being very overly cautious. So I think you are seeing some players being tested, but I think that's when they were home when they got this stuff. Like the Angels, I know they have Renifo and they have
Julio
Tehran
Teheran.
that has it as well. And I think that's what happened when they were with their families. But right now, the amount of testing that they're going through, the amount of precautions that are being taken. I mean, hell, their own home announcers aren't making road games. I mean, they're trying to limit the amount of people around. There's no media for pre and post game. So I think baseball can maybe sneak through this season. That's why I'm giving it an 80% chance. And I think, as we get closer, you're also hearing in the news that COVID vaccines could be ready by November, December. So that would help in the NFL, that would help college football, and obviously the NBA as we get closer. The NBA is just like, look, we already told you if we don't play these games, fans or no fans, we're losing $2.5 billion. So they're going to play. Money talks, BS walks, and I think leagues like that. I think the MLB has a little more cash stashed away to where they can afford it. I think the NBA would take a huge hit globally if they did not finish. So that's why the differences in the way things are going right now.
Yeah, I'll say like as the days go by, I'll probably go a higher percent and say like from zero from what I had to about 50%. I'm just feeling more confident about it, but I think that's the people around me. The people that are scared, putting fear into
Yeah.
myself, saying like, "Oh no, don't. There's not going to be any of that. Don't worry." So quickly, let's do that trivia thing we were talking about.
Okay.
Do you know where Matt Kemp plays?
Mm, Matt Kemp. I would say the Mariners.
Uh, Not in that division, but the other league.
Oh, really? He's a national. Oh, Rockies.
Yeah, I just learned that like 3 weeks ago. I was like, wait, he's still playing? He can only play good in LA, right? He somehow, he gets to maybe sleep with women or something that are of hierarchy, and he
Mhm.
performs well just with the Dodgers, but nowhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then I found out Billy Hamilton. You remember that guy? I
The,
don't
s-
know
the
if you know
speedster.
where he plays.
Let's see. I know he was with Kansas City, Cincinnati for a while. I'm gonna go throw it out there. Maybe Detroit or Miami.
No,
No.
same division as Matt Kemp.
Oh wow. Rockies.
No.
Hmm.
You gotta
Giant.
think Giants, but he's
Giants.
he's he's not on the roster as of right now. I was
How?
just like, wait,
Yeah. How is
yeah,
he not on the roster? He's better than
I,
like 10 of the guys on the current roster.
I forgot to mention him in the roster, but I didn't see him, and then I just saw him right now. I'm thinking, oh, that'd be a good name to trick Todd with because I don't know. Yeah, because you look at we mentioned the roster of San Francisco, like he should be there.
A few years
Yeah.
ago, Billy Hamilton was a guy that you saw in a lot of trade blocks. A lot of teams wanted him
Mhm.
because obviously his speed, he hit for singles and average, and he was a great outfielder. So that's kind of weird to me.
Maybe he's just getting injured and getting older. He's not as fast. That's all I could think of. But yeah, he
Could
should be on. He should be on that 30. Again, a 30-man roster. I got to get used to saying that. Not 25, but 30.
yeah, you got five extra
And,
players.
and not say DL, but say IL.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get used to that.
Because DL's PC. You know, you can't say
I
that. You'll offend disabled people.
Yeah, we're the elite without feet, meat to eat. Uh, I always remember that from Family Guy. We're not cracking on disabled. I'm just yeah. Well, that's been fun today, and I know we got what 50. Some teams have 58 games. We got 59 games to go. We're just hoping that hey, there's a playoff spot for all of us. Well, not all of us, but for us that we are, hopefully. You got any closing? You want to promote anything or anything like that?
No, just I think you gave me a good shout out in the beginning, on the grinds and whatnot, and I'm privileged to be here on the chair. You got to get this to a podcast form. I've been telling you for a while. Me and you, I'll go over the graphics or whatever you need to do it because I think you got something here, and you can get a better fan base there, and that'll get over to your YouTube. So, shout out to you, and thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, you're welcome, and it was a great idea to think about that. I know there was other people we did this with last year, and
Hmm.
that was definitely a thrill to do all the sports,
Hmm.
or basketball and baseball, and they're just hobbies that we have, and with all this going on in the world, it's fun that there's finally actual sports going on, not NASCAR or golf, tennis or whatnot, but actual team sports for once.
Yes, yes.
Maybe we just had to wait just a little while, 4 months,
Hmm.
uh, but now we're on track, and we'll see what happens. But this has been the MLB 2020 season preview. However short the season is, and however long the show was, I thank you for watching and listening. Hopefully, wherever you may be. Todd, thank you for joining me. That's one half of the grinds. Of course, Matt will check them out. And this crossover, hopefully, we can do again with the chair with James. I'm still getting used to that. I'm sitting in the actual chair. You probably hear it, but you can't see it. I'm surprised this hasn't like broken with this quarantine. My chair's on its last leg, if you know what I mean. It's done.
Oh man.
Anyway, you want to figuring the Skype thing out. You want to close the video and we'll catch y'all later.
Yeah, same here. Are you recording on your end?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. So for Todd, this has been James. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Later.